Hello, welcome to OCC Math Seminar video for Math 1050. Today's objective is simplified expressions with absolute value. So we saw that the numbers such as 2 and -2 are opposites because they are the same distance from 0 on the number line. They are both 2 units from 0. So the distance between 0 or any number on the number line is called the absolute value of that number. Okay, so here we have the definition of absolute value. The absolute value of a number is distant from 0 on the number line. And the absolute value of a number n is written as the 2 line with the number in the middle. Okay. For example, I have -5 is 5 units away from 0. So -5, absolute value of -5 is equal 5. As you can see, the picture below illustrates that. Okay, so at -5, there's 5 units away from 0. So therefore, absolute value of -5 is equal 5. Remember, absolute value is the distance from 0. Right? And 5 is 5 units away from 0. So absolute value of 5 is also 5. The absolute value of a number is never negative because the distance cannot be negative. We never say we run -2 miles, right? The only number with the absolute value equal to 0 is the number 0 itself, because the distance from 0 to 0 on the number line is 0 units. Here we have properties of absolute value. So an absolute value of a number n is greater than or equal to 0 for all numbers. Or you can say that, you can say more precisely, absolute values are always non-negative. Non-negatives means greater than or equal to 0. All right, let's take a look at some example. I want to simplify some of the absolute value below. I have absolute value of 3, right? So absolute value of 3 is equal to, oops, sorry, it's too big. Absolute value of 3 is equal to 3, right? Because 3 is 3 units from the 0 on the number line. So absolute value of 3 is 3. Absolute value of -44 is +44, because -44 is 44 units away from 0. And again, absolute value of 0 is 0. All right, let's try some of the problem yourself. Pause the video and try them out. Okay, absolute value of 4. Here we have absolute value of 4 is 4. And we have absolute value of -28 is +28, because -28 is 28 units away from 0. And absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 is 0 units away from 0. Okay, all right. I hope you get a little bit more comfortable with absolute value now. In the next example, we'll order expression with absolute values. So we're going to compare numbers that involve absolute values. Okay. For example, filling less than, greater than, or equal for each of the following pairs of numbers. So the first pair I have, maybe I'll write, I have -5, absolute value of -5. Oops, sorry. Absolute value of -5 versus minus absolute value of -5. So we know the absolute value of -5 is +5. For the right hand side and for the right side, maybe let's do the one inside the absolute value first. So I know the absolute value of -5 is 5, and then we have a negative outside of that, which is -5, right? So here's -5, and over on the left side is 5. So apparently -5 is less than 5, right? -5 is less than 5. because -5 is to the left of 5 on the number line, right? All right, continue to the next pair. I have 8 on the left, and I have negative absolute value of -8. So similarly, we work from inside out. So at the on the right side, I'm gonna evaluate absolute value of -8 first. So that's give me +8. And then there's negative outside. So that will be -8, right? And bring down the 8 and bring this down, bring this 8 down here. So that's just 8. And compare 8 and -8. I know that 8 is greater than -8. Right, let me box my answer. Well, I'll put it right here. Like that. Okay. Same thing with problem C. I have -9 on the left with no absolute value, just -9. On the right hand side, I have negative absolute value of -9. So I'm going to evaluate -9 inside the absolute value first. So absolute value of -9 is +9. And then there's a negative outside. So -9 is -9. Right? And then bring down that -9 here so we can compare. Well, -9 is certainly equal to -9, right? And then last one, I have -16 or opposite of -16. So this one, do you remember the last? If you haven't watched it yet, please go back and watch how I illustrate opposite numbers or number that's opposite. So this is read as opposite of -16. Well, what number is the opposite of -16? +16, right? +16. Maybe I'll write it in blue. +16. And over here, similarly, it's the same thing that we've been doing for the right-hand side. I'm going to evaluate the -16 inside the absolute value first. So that will be +16, right? And absolute value of -16 is +16. And then there's a negative outside. So it'll be -16. And then I have to bring down the blue 16 on the left. And now we compare. 16 is certainly bigger than -16. Let me put it right here. Lost my answer. Okay.